I'm calling the Dumfries Town Council meeting October 16th, 2024 to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Peterson. Here. Councilmember Pete. Councilmember Fields.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Miles.
Present.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now have prayer by Reverend Daly, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
They close it down again.
Daily,
Oh, you said dare.
Let us bow our heads. Gracious Father, thank you for waking us up this morning. God, thank you for putting the sun in the sky, God. Thank you for giving the leadership here the courage, the confidence, and competence to lead these your people, God. We ask that you would be in this meeting, God. We ask that you would continue to have your way, speak to our hearts, God, and continue to bless these United States, bless this city, bless this leadership, and bless the business of the day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, please be seated. Next on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda.
Ms. Mayor, I move we adopt the agenda.
Okay, it's been moved. I'll second. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please call for the question.
Councilmember Peterson.
Aye.
Councilmember Fields.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Wood.
Yes.
That motion.
All right. There are no awards and proclamations tonight. We'll move with our next item, that Jesus called. Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
prior to approving minutes from last meeting, I would like to make a motion to amend previously adopted minutes from our meeting on September 17th, 2024.
You said what day?
September 17th, 2024.
Okay. What? Oh, you do, okay. I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
But it's seconded today. All right, so it's been motion second. Any discussion? She made a motion to amend the September 17th.
I do.
Okay.
That's what I say. So I do have some additional context as to why I'm making this motion that I would like to present to the council and as well as the public. And Madam Clerk, I would ask that this be captured in the the meeting minutes. I apologize. Thank you all for entertaining this motion. As we all know, amending our charter is one of the greatest responsibilities that we have as local elected officials, as it is a guiding document for our locality. It's important that all the work that went into the update of our charter and the changes that were made be documented and reflected in totality. It is important to note that the council has not limited its right to access to legal counsel, as was acknowledged during the exchange. We should also note that accountability is not an injustice and that the General Assembly has adopted identical language in other localities to include Williamsburg, Waynesburg, Victoria, Harrisonburg, and Alexandria. So these changes should not at all be considered radical. Additionally, the council has not restricted the public's opportunity to comment on positions and projects that it takes verbally. The General Assembly only requires citizen comment 4 times, which will be quarterly per year. Dumfries is a locality that continues to provide citizen comment at the beginning of every meeting. So you can talk about whatever you want before we take any business. We hear from our public. So I think that it is important that these changes are reflected. Thank you for your time. And Mayor, with that, I yield back.
All right. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call for the question.
Councilmember Peterson. Aye. Councilmember Fields.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Wood,
Yes.
motion's passed.
All right, next is an approval of the October 1st, 2024 Town Council meeting.
A second.
You making a motion?
Oh, I thought you had made it.
Okay, I move that we adopt October 1st, 2024 Town Council meeting minutes.
A second.
All right, second. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call for the question.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fields.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles,
I abstain.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Wood,
Yes.
motion's passed.
All right. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens wishing to speak tonight?
No citizens signed up to speak.
All right. Moving on to reports and presentations. Our first presentation will be a status update on our comprehensive planning update. Well anticipated.
Mayor Wood, Karen just went in the back to grab Mr. Tabor.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
and I would have told you to let her do hers, but she went to go get it. So I apologize
Okay.
about that.
Hakuna Matata. Hakuna.
Thank you, sir.
We're excited because we've been working on this comprehensive plan for approximately a year now. So just to be able to get an update to see where we're all, update on where our consultant has done and the work that our planning commission and our steering committee has put into this. And so we are now going to invite up our director, Mr. Tabor. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That's okay. That's okay. So good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Chair Pro Tem, and members of council. The town of Dumfries has engaged RHI Incorporated to help update the town's comprehensive plan as mentioned by the mayor. And the update process started at the end of 2023, and phases 1 through 3 have been completed. Phase 1 was the kickoff. Phase 2 was the discovery phase, and phase 3 was the visioning phase. Now we are entering phase 4, which is draft and final plan. The components of phase 4 include identification of plan elements and draft land use framework, steering committee meeting, draft comprehensive land use plan, steering committee meeting 4, public meeting 2, presentation of the draft plan for initial review, and finalization of the draft plan and presentation of the final plan for adoption. And of course, the final plan will be reviewed, submitted to council for consideration and approval. The schedule has been amended a little, and we have a steering committee meeting scheduled for Monday, October 21st. And of course, the steering committee is the town's planning commission, and state code states that the planning commission is responsible for drafting the update and then submitting it to town council for approval. Then there will be a public engagement period, online review and comments, October 25th through the 28th. There will be a public engagement period, public meeting number 2 on October 29th. The draft comprehensive plan will be submitted November 15th. The steering committee meeting number 4 will be on December 9th. The presentation of the draft plan for initial review by the commission and council will be January 7th. And finalization of the draft plan is targeted for January 31st. And the presentation of the final plan for adoption to council is targeted for February 4th. So as mentioned earlier, plan elements have been identified, and there are 9 plan elements: economic growth, public health and safety, community and educational facilities, neighborhoods and housing, historic resources, arts and culture, parks and recreation, transportation and infrastructure, natural resources and the environment, and land use and livability is the 9th. So we're currently reviewing with the steering committee or the planning commission the land use framework, and we will discuss that in depth during the meeting on Monday. And within the land use framework, there are 3 vision statements. The first, and these are draft. The first is Dumfries is a destination, not just a place to pass through. Number 2, Dumfries is a complete community. Dumfries residents and visitors are able to live, work, play, and relax in Dumfries. And the third statement is Dumfries is accessible and connected via all modes of transportation. And within the draft document, we have additional information to be considered, and that will be presented. There are 5 mixed-use hubs proposed in the draft framework. The first is Main Street. The second is Gateway. The third is the Rose. The fourth is the Waterfront. And the 5th is the Junction. And to provide a little more information, Main Street would include our Main Street and the building in which we're located and adjacent properties. The Gateway is the southern gateway to the town. The Rose, of course, is the Rose Gaming Facility and hotel. The Waterfront is the property along the Quantico Creek, and the Junction is the area at the intersection of Route 234 and Route 1. Within the draft framework, there are 5 components. One component is existing residential areas, and the goal is to protect and enhance the existing neighborhoods and housing options. The second is residential infill areas, and the goal is to expand residential options to keep housing costs affordable and support economic growth. A third component is multimodal connections, and the goal is create a transportation network that supports all forms of transportation, reduces automobile dependency, and connects to the regional transit network. The fourth component is Blueways and Greenways system, and the goal is to increase connectivity and reduce automobile dependency for in-town travel and recreation. And the 5th component is natural resources, and the goal is to protect and provide access to natural resource assets. So we have a draft plan or map that identifies the areas and also the connectivity that is proposed. And these, again, will be considered by the Planning Commission during their meeting on Monday and included in the draft plan that will be presented to council, along with the elements and the details regarding the elements. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Okay. Council, Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Tabor, for your presentation and for the work that's going in. And also I would like to extend that to the Planning Commission, as I know they're going to have a hands full in the coming days. I did have a question or area of concern in terms of the crafting of the document. Although the Planning Commission is responsible for writing it and passing it, we know that they're going to be relying heavily on the contractor. During these public engagement periods and while we're drafting, has the contractor physically, have they been to Dumfries? Because I know they've done a lot of like Zoom and Teams, but like since this document is going to be like, it's gonna be our guiding document for how we build, for them to have an appropriate feel and, have the content that we need. We need a physical presence here. So I see you shaking your head. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn it over and let you answer the question.
Yes. They've been here several times. And then when we had the initial community engagement meeting, they were here. We were actually at the farmer's market and received comments from the community during that period. And then we'll have another in-person community engagement session, and they will be physically here as well for that.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad to hear that because I know when they came here last, they were a little fuzzy on some of the details. So I just wanted to make sure we were
Yes.
in the right direction there.
Yes, and we did also have a tour of the town with them initially early on in the process.
All right, thank you. Oh, yep.
So I think Chair Pro Tem there was a personnel change from the beginning of this project to
Yeah.
the last time it was presented.
Yes,
So you have a brand new person who had never been to. We want to know if the new person who jumped on the project has been to town to do some networking. stuff.
yes, he has.
That's-
Yes,
that's-
Eric.
I think that was your.
Yeah, that was.
So, yes,
Yeah, let me-
yes.
Let me give a little clarity to where we're going here. We want to know if the new people
Yes.
who joined on as they had some personnel changes.
Yes, yeah.
All right, that's now let's go do that.
Thanks, gotcha.
Yeah. To all of those dates, can you start pumping all of those dates out on the app so people can see that there is levels where they can be engaged throughout this whole process? So it's not just at the end of October when we get to that public hearing, let them know that there is a planning commission discussion and those dates out so we can start pushing all the dates out.
Absolutely. And we will work with the PIO and also our community engagement to
Yeah.
use all avenues available to get the info out.
And then I guess too, when are the documents going to be available online for people to start to read through?
Yes, in November.
So prior to the planning commission and the council meeting, there'll be no documents for people to read? and go?
Yes, prior to presenting the documents definitely to council, there will, so the public engagement, public meeting will be, is scheduled for October 29th. And there will be the document online by that time. And there will be a 3-day comment period. Or so there will be the document will be online for the public to see as well.
So I guess, do you post your planning commission agendas?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so the supporting documentation go with that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just, all right, so maybe that's all my question is. All right, I'm good. Thank you for the update. Council, any additional? All right, seeing no additional questions, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our first quarter financial report.
Nothing.
You're live.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Okay, it just popped up. Have to figure out and see if I can get this thing going. All right, okay, so sounds good. I guess I went too far. So I hit it. Oh, there you go. There you go. So I guess I got lucky fingers, something like that. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Again, my name is Mohammed Osu. I was here last quarter and talked about the end of the quarter numbers for town of Dumfries. We are still waiting for the auditors to get started and finish their work for the fourth quarter. We'll come back again, hopefully in December, to present that. So here, I'm going to talk about the first quarter. On the introduction page, as you can see, the finance department under the leadership of the town manager, making sure that we're very, very transparent. That's very important, not just for town council, but then for the citizens of Dumfries. On the my first page, I show our revenue expenditures and fund balance. And I'll take the last column, the fund balance, because we are not done with the audit for the fourth quarter of 2024. Is basically still the same. When the auditors are done, that's where we're going to see if there's any surpluses that we're going to carry over into the new year, basically. And you can see this slide is very, very empty. And it's always like that. The first quarter, we don't see too much activities, as you will see in the next page. It's 3 months into the year. So that's 25%. If the whole year is 100, we're looking at 25%, right? So on the next page, I will show you what we did in terms of revenue. So when you look on the bottom of it, it's a 19.9. I was expecting, or the department, the town is expecting 25%. But obviously we are at 19.9. Should I be worried? Should council be worried? No. Thank you. You can see the mayor shaking his head. No. Why? Because we are too early into the year, number one. Number two, real estate, gaming tax, all these big taxes for the city, for the town, do not come in till a little later. So we are not worried, at this point in time. But remember the 19.9, it's, I'm looking at the index should be 25%. I'm at 19.9 for the revenue. And so how does the expenditure look like, right? So when you go to expenditure here, you will see that at the expenditure level, we are at 21.5. So again, here, there's a lot of bills that we need to pay, but the mismatch is not too much. If I was at about 25 in expenditure vis-a-vis 19.9, so then that would mean we are dipping into our resources to fund the city. But at this point, it's not too bad. First quarter, just like the last quarter when we talked about until the auditors are done, we don't know what we are doing. Here, it's just way too early. So the mismatch is not too bad. Once we begin to get into the second quarter and the third quarter, and I still have this kind of mismatch, then you say, Mohammed, what's going on here? So we are watching it like a hawk, making sure that we are not going too far. We don't want to be borrowing money to do anything or dipping into our reserves to run the town. But this type of indices is very, very good, where we know where our revenues are coming in and where our expenditures are looking at this point in time. I see a lot of people looking at me. I mean, if there's any question, you can ask me now, or I can, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I know some of these things. If somebody has a question for me, I can answer the question now, or you want me to plow through and then, okay. On the bottom of this slide, we have the capital projects. We haven't done too much. We haven't done really anything in the first three months, but there are a lot on the plate. You all saw the CIP budget for this year. There's a lot on the plate, and a lot that will be coming up in the second and third quarters. And once those come in on the ledger, we will report it here. But as of now, for the first 3 months, we haven't seen anything on the ledger coming in.
On your capital project fund, where did the funding for those capital projects come from? I think that'd be a good question to put in there.
Sure.
Funding for the capital.
You want me to talk about them?
Yeah, the CIB. Where
The CIP. Okay, so we have the bond anticipation notes is one of them. We have the ARPA is another one. We have SLAP funds is another one of them. And obviously, as we get into the budget for next year, we'll look at pay as you go. Okay, because that's pay go. It's very, very important, especially if there are any funds coming to the town. You want to make sure that you're not only using bonds or grants and funds for the federal and state governments to do your projects, but you're showing that you are responsible as a town using pay-go.
So this is where our bond money is in the capital improvement project?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
All right, that's what I want. I was just making sure.
And I have to, last time, I think a council member asked me about the ARPA, how much we have left, and what are the, when are we going to be? And I think I do address it in here. You did, right? Yes, thank you very much. I did address it in here. We have to obligate. We have 2.5 million right now. We have to obligate those funds by December 2024, which is 4 months from now. and spend it 3 months and spend it by 2026. So we are in good shape. We are going to make sure, the town is going to make sure that we don't send any money back to the federal government. And like I said, this is very light. Hopefully in the second quarter, you begin to see some heavy numbers. And then but the most important thing is for the first quarter is 25%. That's the index that I'm working against. And the revenue is 19.9, expenditures 21.1, and that's not too bad for the first 3 months. And we continue to look and watch what we are doing so that the town is in good shape.
Thank you, sir. I think based on past trends, we're trending good. Not until November and December, we collect all these real estate
Yes, sir.
taxes.
Yes,
Will we see a huge spike? So thank you for your presentation.
I thank you very
Any
much.
additional questions? See it, Vice Mayor.
I do have a question. The non-departmental services, what does that consist of?
So the non-departmental services budget, ma'am, and I could just pull it right out of the budget book. If you don't give me one complete second. Many of the non-departmental services includes the grants that will be given to different people who we awarded grants to, different companies. And I'm trying to find the page, so forgive me. Thank you, ma'am. All right. It's Community Partners Grants, Historic Dumfries, Dumfries Slave Cemetery, the Boys and Girls Club, our municipal building, NVRC, Future Kings, Destination Dumfries, affordable housing, Divine Inspirations, and Generation Boilers. Those are the things that's in non-departmental.
I asked that because I look at that being, so where it says it's 54.2%. Help me understand, explain why that is looking at 54.2% compared to all the other numbers being, trending lower, and that one is trending so much higher.
Yes,
Explain that to a novice so
yes.
they can
So
understand what they're looking at.
many of these outside entities request for their funds at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Mhm.
So we
So they-
tend to pay them out now, and that would trend higher than everyone else.
Because when they're looking at their budgets for the year, they want to see their monies come in so that they can help with their budget planning for their years.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
yes. Thank you very much.
Councilman Brown, you got the lighten up now.
This may be out of context, but where would the revenues from the roads go? What column would that be in?
That's the other local taxes. That's where we have the big amount. 8 point on this page. I think it's on page 3. The revenues, under the revenues, the FEA, the budget of 8.017, see that? 8.017. It says other local taxes.
So, well, my real question is how much have we received from there?
Oh, how much have you received so far?
That's from the roads.
Sir, if you don't mind, can we address that question when the treasurer does her report?
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
so I said maybe I.
all right.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. To our town treasurer, Ms. Karen, the floor is now yours. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Chair Pro Tem, and member of the council. This is the first quarter of the fiscal year 2024-2025 Treasury Report. On the first page, We have checking, savings, and Virginia Investment Pool account, beginning balance as of July 1st, 2024. All the deposit the town has received, all the disbursement, and the total town fund as of September 30th, 2024 is $9,888,851.76. On the next page, we have all the deposits on page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. We have all the deposit the town has received, the description of the deposit, and the amount. With this deposit, we also include the interest for the general demand account, which is on page 3. July interest was $18,980.64. And on page 5, we have, on page 4, we have August interest. The town has received $18,577.37. And for the month of September, we have received $17,167.97. Apart from this deposit, the town has received from the Rose $400,000 for the month of September and $400,000 for the month of October, which is also included in this deposit.
Excuse me, is that the Rose and Rosie's or just the Rose?
Just the Rose.
Just the Rose. Is your question about the Rose or the Rose and Rosie's, Mr. Burke?
Oh, well.
Yes. The Rosies so far for this fiscal year, for the gaming tax, we have received $446,633.92.
800 off the other Rose.
Yes, just for the past 2 months. And then we have disbursement on page 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, all the disbursement paid amount, description of the amount. Any questions?
Got any additional questions for the treasurer's report? All right, thank you, Ms. Karen, for your
Thank you.
detailed report. Next is an update to our special events and programs from our director, Mr. Vines.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Chair Pro, council members, town manager, and town leadership, good evening to you. I'm before you to provide an update on our department, and the specific areas we'll be covering are our youth council, our post-special events update, and then our programs development update. And so if you look at the youth council timeline, stood before you in September, and we presented the manual. As you look at this slide, you will see the timeline circles as they are shaded in. It shows our progress. And so in September, we had the manual revised and we updated the recruitment flyer that was associated with the past manual. And then moving into October, that revised manual has been submitted to the town attorney for review because we wanted to make sure that we have that second review for the revised document. And so we're awaiting that review as we move into October and November. When the manual is approved, we'll present that to council, which will most likely be at a November council meeting. And then we can look at recruitment, applications, hiring interviews, hiring and onboarding, and continuing into November, December, hosting our actual first youth council meeting. And so hopefully we will have them on board to provide ideas and opportunities for all of our Christmas events that we have planned. And so they will be able to get involved very quickly with some of that awesome holiday activity. So that is our youth council timeline update. Moving into the post events update. From a planning and operations and logistics matter, these are just some of the things that go into the process of our special events. Special events are very, very involved and very time consuming from a perspective of the planning. And so we always want to mention that our team spends a lot of time making sure that we focus on those areas to ensure that we have quality events. So the special events that we'll be covering are Independence Day fireworks celebration, our summer concert series, our back to school supply drive, National Night Out, our movie nights, Cops, Cones, and Council event, Fall Festival and 5K, and our community versus PD basketball game. And so our first event was our fireworks show. We had that at Garrison Park. That was on Sunday, July the 6th. We had fireworks, food trucks, and a DJ. We had over 1,200 people attend that event. So we had a great time celebrating the 4th of July together. Our summer concert series, we had 3 events planned. Unfortunately, one was canceled due to inclement weather. That was the August 10th event. All of these took place at Garrison Park. We had food trucks, live music, life-size games. At our last event, we had bounce house and some other activities for the kids because we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to enjoy themselves. We saw a lot more kids come out for that second event. And so July 24th, we had Faces You Know Band. We had 271 people at that event. And then on the 24th, we had 2 bands, Still Familiar and Jay Baxter and the Sauce. And we had 496 in attendance at that event. So our back to school bash, we had a great time at the Clyde in Washington Community Center. We gave away backpacks and school supplies. We also had face painting, balloon animals, cornhole, a DJ, Sweet Frog, and the mascot. Kids had a great time. We gave out over 215 backpacks with school supplies to go with it. We had 332 people in attendance, and so our parents and our kids had a great time at the event. That was actually on a Saturday from 12 to 2 was August the 3rd. We had a great time there. Next event is our National Night Out event. And that event, we partner with the police department. It is their event that they sponsor, but we are a support mechanism for the event. And so we help with logistics. It was at Garrison Park on August the 6th. It was a Tuesday. We had food, community resources, petting zoo, face painting, and balloon art. Bounce house, DJ, K9 demo, police cruiser tours, games, and a lot of great fellowship and fun. And then our town leadership, our town council went out to the neighborhoods with the police department. And so we had 449 people attend that event. Our summer movie nights, I came from a locality of 28,000 people, and we would do movie nights and we have like 20 people show up. And so when you look at our population and you see that we had 2 movie nights, one on August the 6th, where we had 53 people, and one on August the 14th, we had 44. Those are considered really good turnouts. And so our August the 6th event was at Garrison Park. We showed the movie Encanto, and then we had our second at Ginn Park, and we showed the movie If. And so everyone had a great time, had popcorn and candy, and everyone enjoyed themselves.
Question on the movie. So are we required to get showing licenses in the park for those?
Yes, we actually work with a company called Swink, and so we purchased the license so we can make sure that we can show that movie to the outdoor audience. So Cops, Cones, and Council, we partnered with Jimmy T's Soft Serve Ice Cream, which is some great ice cream. We had a police partnered event where we had police cruiser tours, and the folks could come up and get some free ice cream and meet our town leadership and the police. And so we thank Chief and his team and council. We had 245 attend the event, and we had 140 that enjoyed ice cream. So our fall festival, this event took place with our 5K. So at our fall festival event, which was here at Garrison Park, was on September the 21st. It was a Saturday. Had a carnival ride, bounce house, our farmers market vendors and other resource vendors, petting zoo, food trucks and vendors, cornhole, live music, pumpkin decorating, and our selfie station. And we had 1,178 people at that event. It was a great way to bring fall in. Earlier that morning, we had our Memorial 5K race, and that was at Merchant Park. We partnered with the community group to do that. In that event, we basically provided a lot of logistical support. So VDOT coordination, law enforcement coordination, cones, message boards, safety plan. But the runners had a great time. We had 80 registered and 69 actually participated in the race. And our community versus police department basketball game, that was on a Wednesday, October the 2nd. My knees are still feeling the pain of the event. And so I should have gotten with the mayor and done the stretching program before we started playing. But thank you to Councilman Peterson, Councilman Pete for the great job of coaching the team, the community team. Thank you to the police department and chief for coming out. We had a great time. We had free food, a DJ. We had some clowns out there that were just as referees. This time, we tried to make sure from a basketball perspective, we really had that basketball game feel. So we had the scoreboard, we had people keeping time, we had VHSL referees out there to make sure we had a great game. And if anybody had too many fouls, they fouled out. So we had a great time. We had 147 people attend that event. And so moving into our programs update. In the background, our goal from a programming development perspective is to create a long-term plan for the sustainment of programming. And so there's a lot of background work that's gone on thus far. That includes budget allocation, just getting an idea of how many programs that we can actually fit into the budget that we have for programming. Instructor pay guidelines have been developed. That's basically the pay format that your instructors are going to be paid by. So you can either contract your employees or you can actually hire them. It also speaks to the requirements for those individuals, their program proposals, how those are the process for intaking those. And so it creates your structure for how you're going to actually pay out to your instructors once you hire them. An equipment assessment has been done because we did not have a lot of equipment in stock. And so as we're doing events and as we're purchasing equipment, we're looking at how we can use that equipment for future programming, and also making an assessment of what equipment we'll need from a budget perspective for future planning. Season and session schedules have been developed. And so when you're looking at programming, you want to create an actual structure for those classes to be scheduled by. So you have your winter, spring season, you have 2 summer seasons and 2 fall, winter seasons. Within those seasons, you have sessions. They can be 6-week sessions or 8-week sessions, but it gives your classes an actual timeframe guideline to go by. That also allows you to move into a program guide once you start to develop more programs, but it creates the long-term structure by which you'll plan all of your actual programs. Our volunteer background check vendor, we've been working on that. Our HR department has a process. It uses the state police as a background check mechanism, but we looked at another vendor, a third-party vendor. Their criminal research team does a little bit of a deeper dive into the individual's criminal history. And so they do a national check. There's also an opportunity to do an Interpol check. We did not choose that option, but they have a great opportunity to be able to find anything in a person's history, especially with our volunteers working around children. This program also allows us to be able to directly process the background checks online. Right now, we do not have that process in place. And there's a 1 day to 72 hour turnaround time, so we can get those background checks back quickly. And we will be responsive to that. The Parks and Rec department will be able to, Parks and Recreation or Civic Engagement will be able to manage that process. Program sites, evaluating what sites we can actually do our actual programs at. One of the things we found is that with the school system, we actually have to go through Prince William Parks and Rec to actually reserve facilities, school facilities for programs. And so we've made that connection, and we're talking with them to see what facilities are available and what we have to be able to use in conjunction with the facilities that we own. Registration process, developing the registration form, working with DMV to identify how we can actually have DMV take the payments for classes, because right now we don't have a recreation software. So we would use the DMV to actually take all of the registrations and then create our class rosters from that registration process. Starting to survey the community to see what programs the community would like offered. Instructor recruitment, looking at job descriptions so we can advertise. A lot of times when you're doing fitness classes and wellness classes, specialty classes, you want to advertise and find the best instructors. Meeting community partners. We have a lot of instructors and a lot of folks within Dumfries who are going to give us an opportunity to be able to use hometown resources for our programming development. And then staffing plans. One of the things we want to look at is if we're using the school, that instructor may be teaching the class. We want to make sure we have supervision of facilities that are not ours, so that we can make sure that we don't have facilities get messed up, kids running around, or if there's an emergency, if something happens, we're able to be responsive to that emergency. Some of the program ideas, and we're not locked in, but these are some of the things that we're looking at: karate class, family game nights, family craft nights, exercise and fitness classes, basketball, football, cheer clinics, cooking class, boxing program, and line dance class. And as far as the timeline for program development, once again, you'll see our timeline circles. We have been doing our background planning and infrastructure. We've started putting some surveys out, and we'll continue to put more surveys out, and making sure that those surveys are on the Connects platform to get more people involved. As we move into November, looking at instructor recruitment, registration planning, and continuing to do surveys. December, some one-time class opportunities. We always like to take advantage of the times that kids are out of school so that we can actually get them involved in something while they're out of school for Christmas break. And then looking at a full rollout of programming that we mentioned in the springtime, continuing to do surveys, looking to see if we can get karate classes, some exercise classes, and some of our clinics further rolling in the spring. And as always, we thank you all, council, for your continued support. Like to take any questions if there are any at this time.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray, to you and your department for all the work that you all are putting in. I recognize that there's a lot going on. There's a lot with the building out of the programming for the just the programming, with the recreation department just growing, because we have a lot of expectations on this dais, because there are programs that we want to see built out, and then there are events. And so I recognize that there are a lot of balls in the air. When I think about the programs, I want to start there with the program development. I like where you're going with this. One thing that I would like to see a little bit more of, when you get to that point, when I look at karate class, family night, exercise, et cetera, I would like to see some more educational programming on here. I think it's really important that we make sure we strike a balance for what we're offering our community. I think we look at the needs of our community and make sure that we're meeting those needs on all aspects. Recreation is really good, and we need recreation here for our community so that they have access to recreation. That's free access to this recreation. But I also think it's important that we offer supplemental educational needs too. So whether that is tutoring, whether that's language services, things like that. But I think it's very important that we seek out what those needs are and do our very best to help meet those needs as well.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to the events, we have a lot of events going on. I would like to know, and we spend a lot of money for these events. And I think it's important that we continue to have events because engagement is important, especially in a small community like ours. I think we have a small town feel in a big city area. I say big city, but as big city as you could be here on this side of the Mason-Dixon. And I'm just saying that facetiously, tongue in cheek, being a New Yorker. But it's important that we have engagement. But what I think about a lot is, what is the return on investment for the amount of engagement or the amount of events that we do? Because when I look at the numbers and the attendance to these events, and I see, concerts, for instance, I'm gonna go back to that. When I see a summer concert that had 271 attendees, and I think about the food trucks, the live music, the games, the fellowship and fun, it is great. We would have done, had it not been for the rain date, we would have done 3 concerts. And I know that it costs a lot of money to have bands here. We spend money, because I'm thinking about costs, so we spend money to have bands, to have equipment rental, to have, the games and everything for the children. And the only financial impact that we really get is permit fees. Unless I'm missing something, and if I am, please tell me. And so when we invest in those kinds of things, because I remember talking about this a while ago when we were talking about a concert series. And I remember it was a council member, I don't remember which one, said, well, we want to make sure we're bringing people to Dumfries. And I think it's important that Dumfries is a destination. But again, it's like, well, what are we bringing people to Dumfries for? Because we don't have the businesses that we're drawing people into Dumfries for them to then, patronize. So if we're bringing people to Dumfries, when they get here, what are they doing? it's like we're spending money to bring people to Dumfries to get here, enjoy the music, and then go home, unless they're already residents here. And a lot of what we're getting is we're getting a lot of people coming from outside of Dumfries, a lot of our residents too, but then we're getting the people from outside of Dumfries that are coming here, enjoying the music, enjoying, the free entertainment, and then they're going home, in comparison to what's happening over by Wegmans. Wegmans is giving these free concerts to bring people in, but then they go and they shop. And they go and they spend their money at the stores there. So they're doing it and it's a strategic move. Whereas here, we're spending the money for them to come. What's our return on investment? So I asked that question because I want to know if we're looking at that. I want to know whether or not we're just pouring money in and are we measuring what we're getting back from it? Because if we're not getting enough back from it, we may need to really look at how much we're pouring into it. We don't have to stop it, but we might want to look at how much we're really pouring into it and whether or not it's a great use of our dollars. And we could be spending that money on putting some books into the community or putting other things in the community. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Brown. Thank you, Mr. Vines. Great job.
Thanks.
So since you came to the town, the things that you have implemented and the things that your vision is pretty much in line with where I'm at. A lot of things that we do for us events, we do them not knowing what the return is. There's no expectation. We say that this seems to be something that's good. Let's do it. Let's try it. But as Vice Mayor said, there's a cost to everything. Every event that we have approved, there's a cost to it. There's resources that we use the staff to set up that event. There's payout to vendors that's coming. So there's a cost associated with everything. But not everything is quantitative. Your objective, one of the objectives that my perspective is we are a community. And what does that mean? And if we're not together on anything, where's the unity? If we don't associate with each other, where's the common ground? So it's not simply about some of these events are not simply about just having an event. It's getting to the root of why we are here. And that's building a community. You can do all kind of events all year, but if you don't have an objective and you don't know how to measure the outcome of that particular event, then we're losing resources. There's no way to measure success. We say it was good. So I think what Vice Mayor is saying, yes, I see after action reports. I don't see a cost associated with it. I see that we're having concerts, putting on events in the community center. There's a cost associated, and we're doing these things over and over and over again. And where do we see we are making impact? We're having impact to whatever our objectives is. That needs to be defined. So if we say, okay, we're going to target youth and try to build some discipline and some instructors to come in to help our youth, our children, how do we measure that? So I'm all about trying to do something and not doing nothing. But at some point, after 3 years of the same thing, you need to have a good basis of, should we still continue this or should we modify this and go in a different direction? That's the piece I think that I feel that we are missing at this point. And not about you, because you're doing a good job, but at some point we have to come back and not justify to the community, but have a rationale why we are doing what we're doing, why we're spending that type of money, because everybody is not going to get the money thing, because that's not the driver for every objective. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you're doing a good job, and I appreciate that you are working for the town of Dumfries. Thank you.
Councilman Phillips.
Yes, sir. Good job, sir. Good job. I'm enjoying, excuse me, the massive turnouts that we're getting at some of these events. It looks good. It's a great look for the town. If you would please just add to your program ideas, you know, we have a large Latino community. How about some Spanish to English classes? Vice Mayor did hit on language a little bit, but specifically, since we have a large Latino community here in the town, Spanish to English. Also upcoming, I'm big on Christmas in Dumfries. That's my thing. Let's get some, oh, that's you? No, let's get some updates on that and get ahead of that this year. We usually are, but let's just make it better than you wasn't here last year, but Town Manager can fill you in on that. So that we won't have any of the issues that we had last year. We can do it better.
Sorry, I just have two more comments. When we
go before me.
Go ahead. So one thing that I think, I don't know if we're doing that, but when we have these events, this is a good time to get public feedback. This is a good time to get surveys. So we have the Dumfries Connect app. And as these attendees are coming to these events, let's encourage them to give us feedback through the Connect app and say, okay, was this a good event? Did you like it? Do you want more? So we can kind of get some feedback based upon not this side of the dais, but actually the town. The second piece is about the different type of ideas that you have coming. Basketball and football is good. But if we only focus energy around those type of sports, we're doing an injustice or disjustice to our kids. There's tennis, there's baseball, there's golf. We have to get out the mindset of this is all our kids can do in our community. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like everything is not going to be accepted, but we need to have some variety in approach to dealing with parents and their kids. Some parents don't want their kids to be on a team. They may want to get involved in individual sports. Let's look at trying to kind of include some of those things also. And again, getting the feedback from the citizens. Thank you.
Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And tagging my colleagues, good job, Mr. Vine, you're doing excellent work. Along the lines of Councilman Brown's point, when we talk about inclusion, I want to make sure that the programs that we do implement are inclusive of individuals with all abilities. Are we making plans to make sure the disability community is accessible to these things as well?
Yes, ma'am, most definitely. We're always going to make a reasonable accommodation. And so whatever we do, we're going to make sure that we plan it from that perspective, whether that's a program, facility, it's always in our planning process.
And I want to make sure that we talk about, when I talk about those disabilities, not just physical disabilities, I'm talking about people with intellectual disabilities, even severe intellectual abilities. Are we prepared to deal with that population? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. If we don't have it in-house, we find the resources outside, but we are very good about making sure that we find the accommodations to make sure we can address any needs.
All right, thank you.
Very a thorough presentation, appreciate it. On the background checks, I was gonna say, there's one that the Boys and Girls Club requires of us every year, January. The people that serve, which is a pretty detailed, and it's an annual background that they send out. So just check with them too, as you're looking at different programs. They have a great one that they use. One of the things I didn't see in your program development that I want you to look into, something I kind of been screaming since probably 2014 when we do these events, is sponsorships, right? Naming rights for some of these things. You know, we don't have to necessarily pay for everything, but there are business community that want to be a part. I know growing up, I used to see, you know, the McDonald's All-American Basketball Tournament, or there was, you know, when they had the 3-on-3, the and 1 tournaments and stuff like that. So to be able to look for some of these corporate or these business partners in the community. So in your development, look at how you can begin to create sponsorships. It might be a business in town that want to put their name on the summer concert series and pay for, you know. So now that we're developing programs, you know, there was a shell of a sponsorship package booklet that we had put together back when there was a little commission that talked about that. And we kind of, because there was no donation policy and there was no sponsorship policy. So that got created. I don't know where it's at, but it was created back in 2013 or 14. And so I've always said, we can pool the resources together that we don't have to foot every bill, but we can continue to do this and get community buy-in. So sponsorship, development. Also, the one thing that's missing, I don't know if this fell under you or not, but the farmer's market, is that part of your department?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just some updates on that, and ideas on how we can continue to promote and to really talk about the food insecurities and the food desert, to be able to give people access to this fresh food. What can we do to really grow and develop that program? How can we bring back, SNAP? How can we bring back other type of services where we attract more and more people and really go after more farmer type vendors and stuff like that, so we can kind of continue to grow this. And I do agree with some STEAM programming, from the robotics to the gaming to a lot of this stuff to meet the kids where they're at. But overall, very detailed. Those were just the little my nickel to that dollar that I wanted to add. All right. Councilwoman Peterson, did you have something? You should, okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right. Moving on.
Thank you.
I'm going to give the council a quick 5-minute stretch break because one of my council stepped out, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. because we are healthy eating, active living. All right, welcome back. Next on our agenda is our town manager report. Madam Town Manager, the floor is yours.
Mayor and Town Council, y'all have a copy of my town manager report. At the end, I'll entertain any questions. I'm just going to highlight a few things off the report as well as some new developments. Currently, we're recruiting for the procurement specialist and grant writer position, as well as the senior accounting for payrolls. Interviews is scheduled for this month, October 18th and 25th. We are also rolling out our performance management system for staff this month as well. We're highlighting a few events that's coming up. One is the Hotspot Cleanup, which will be held on October 19th, starting at 9 a.m. at the Clyde Washington Community Center. We are also hosting a Pink and Purple event, which will be held on October 27th at the Clyde Washington Community Center from 1 to 5 p.m. We also have scheduled a turkey giveaway, which is scheduled for November 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. We currently have 484 downloads of our Dumfries Citizens Connect app, so it is really working out well here in the town. We have emailed the town council requesting input as it relates to the theme of the Christmas parade. Some have already provided their input as it relates to the Grand Marshal. We've also requested that y'all provide us with a little bit of input as it relates to the refresh of the town's website. The town has completed the second charter newsletter. The council, we have a copy up on the dais. It is being mailed out to our town residents no later than Monday, the 21st. Copies will be made available electronically as well. Please know, starting November, the second meeting of November, I will have at least 2 of our department heads presenting updates on various projects they are working for in the vein of transparency and to keep the council and public informed of some of the things that we are doing. I also would like to take the time to extend to the council Happy National Bosses Day. Look forward to your direction in the future. If y'all have questions for me as it relates to my report, I look forward to having them.
All right, thank you. Can you give us details again? What did you say about a turkey thing?
The turkey giveaway event is scheduled for November 14th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. Was that a Parks and Recs thing or?
That was actually something that was voted on and put on the calendar. Yes, sir.
All right. Councilwoman Peterson.
I would like to make a motion to cancel the turkey giveaway event.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and second. Any discussion? You just don't like turkeys. Okay. All right.
I have a
Vice Mayor.
discussion. So Councilwoman Peterson and I talked about that.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Peterson, I thought you would talk about why you were doing that, because we talked about the big turkey event that's happening, the food drive giveaway that's happening by the Prince William County Community Foundation. So while Councilwoman Peterson is not taking the event away from the citizens, in that we're not going to make sure that the citizens still have access to it, there will be a very big food giveaway in the town of Dumfries on November 23rd. So rather than have the duplicative efforts, there will be a very large food giveaway in the town of Dumfries by the Prince William County Community Foundation in the Dumfries Plaza Shopping Center over in front of the supermarket area. So be on the lookout for that information. You can look up the Prince William County Community Foundation for more information on the exact time, but that will happen on November 23rd, really close to Thanksgiving, and you'll be able to get pretty much all the fixings you need at that moment. And then stay tuned to Councilman Peterson's next time for more information. Thank you.
Hopefully they're not frozen and they're defrosted for us. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, please repeat the motion and call for the question.
The motion is to cancel the turkey giveaway. Councilwoman Peterson? Aye. Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
And Mayor Wood.
Yes.
That motion has passed.
All right. Any other questions or discussion on the town manager's report? Questions on the police, and maybe you bring this back to us next time. This data on the calls for service. I'm just curious at how many is domestic versus how many are criminal versus how many, like, what's the percentage and the mix and the types of calls for service that they're getting?
Yes, sir. If we can, the police department will be part of the updates to the council, so I'll make sure they address that as well.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Like to know what type of calls. All right, that's all I got. Vice Mayor.
Madam Town Manager, did you have an opportunity to, I think last time, I don't know if it was with your report, we talked about the compliments that were coming in to the Citizens Connect. We talked about pulling those out and sharing them with council and posting them on the board so that the employees could see those compliments in black and white for motivational purposes, including them on the board downstairs and or in the charter newsletter so that people can see the compliments. I think it's important and it's motivational so that we can see them because they don't have a problem sharing the complaints with us and those are brought to our attention. I think it's important that we see those compliments too, because I truly believe the staff are the magic behind the curtain, and I would like them to be celebrated out loud just as they are criticized out loud.
Yes, ma'am. That was something that you did ask for, and I will make sure it gets done, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Just a comment, on the police department, they're doing an outstanding job. And so as long as I've been on the council, I haven't heard one time that there was a issue with one of our officers on the street. That is outstanding. I can't say that there haven't been any issues, but I haven't heard any citizen say that there was any issues how the police treated them. That's outstanding. That's not everywhere you go. So good job, folks. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to add on comments about the Dumfries Citizen Connect app. First of all, anytime I see anything, when I'm walking, I take my phone out and take pictures. I want to say to date, every single picture that I posted on the app has been answered, right? Some might take a little longer, but I've got a response on every one of the things. It comes with a ticker, you get an email. So this is a plug to continue to encourage the community. Like if they got issues, download the Dumfries Citizens Connect app. You see potholes from the streets getting painted to the signs getting fixed. I think we got signs fixed. I done seen curves get painted. Like when they bring complaints, if they don't do it, I go take a picture of it and put it up. And the app is a great resource, not just for complaints, but you say also to give some compliments. So I just wanted to echo and to add on to that sentiment. All right. Thank you. Seeing no more discussion. Thank you for your report, Madam Town Manager.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next is the consent agenda. Madam Chair Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, it's been motion, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call for the question.
Councilmember Peterson. Aye. Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Wood.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Okay. Final topic of discussion is our legislative priorities. General Assembly is fastly putting out their policy agendas, and I think it's really important this year that we really push forth what our agenda is and what's important to us. With that said, I had 5 that I proposed. I've actually changed how I wrote one. Oh, how do I get to? Okay, my thing doesn't work. Okay, that's okay. You got it on the screen. I'm having trouble with this. So legislative agenda. Let's go to the next slide. We're gonna press through. Thank you. So I want to present our legislative agenda for the 2025 Virginia General Assembly. This is just for, thank you. Just encouragement and feedback from the council. And then at the end, we don't have to approve everything today, just to get staff to draft up and that we continue to bring it back to the next meeting with a thing. So that's kind of the objective today. Our legislative agenda, for those who don't know and understand, is what the council presents to our Virginia General Assembly members, specific policy changes that the town of Dumfries either support or oppose of during the 2025 session. I got 5 things, and then 6 things could be an open discussion, as I know other people got priorities. The 5 I put up there: funding redevelopment of Quantico Creek, which we all talked about in our strategic plan, as well as burying the power lines along Main Street and Route 1. Tax code reform, there's been recent news. There's an actual committee in Richmond right now talking about tax code reform, for how Rosie's and the Rosen gaming revenue is split. Policy that supports the Rose Gaming Resort either becoming a Class 3 game facility in opposition to Skill Games a chance, and then an open discussion for any additional policies. All right, moving on to the first. You had a question about anything? Okay. All right, so the first one I talked about is funding for redevelopment and cleanup of Quantico Creek. And the position I'm looking for staff to kind of draft around this is state funding, through continued state funding, because we've got SLAP money in the past, is through the Stormwater Local Assistance Fund and other environmental grants to support 2 things: the redevelopment and the cleanup of Quantico Creek. And so we've been doing a lot of that now. Some of the background for some of us is we've been one of 75 projects, 175 projects. Phase 1, phase 2 are rebuilding Quantico Creek. And so the Stormwater Local Assistance Matching Grant comes to us. These have projects in the state money that clean stream restoration, which we've been doing, wetland construction, and other pollution control methods. Also, I think that our position should be that we seek funding to restore Quantico Creek, which is a critical waterway. That's why we got the boat and the water on our logo, because of Quantico Creek, and we want to improve our local ecosystem. And because we've had 400-year floods over the 400-year floods over the last 10 years, we need to look at ways to reduce flooding and to continue to promote recreational use of Quantico Creek, which we don't have. It's only on Occoquan and the APSCO, and it can allow to broader environmental and community development goals. So justification for our legislative agenda, as you guys begin to draft this, is the environmental impacts, the economic development, and how it aligns with the state budget. All right. Any questions on the Quantico Creek or any additional commentary on Quantico Creek? Chair Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Mayor. In terms of the cleanup of Quantico Creek, I think we have to be very intentional about the language that we use when this document goes down in Richmond. I think we use this like cleanup Quantico Creek language so much that it doesn't really have any teeth to it. It's kind of becoming a slogan. I would like to see if when the document is developed, if we talk about exactly what we're asking this money for, like not things that it can be used for, like, oh, this is our plan, this is our phase, this is what we want you to fund. And I think, it'll have more teeth to it if we say, okay, these are the steps in Quantico Creek, because I think at this point we've heard clean up Quantico Creek for so long. I don't know how many people know what that actually means, so, and then when we say we're going to restore it to what? So I think we need to iron that out a bit and have a clear plan that we're presenting to the legislatures, and saying, okay, this is what we want to do. These are the steps we need for our cleanup, and this is what we're restoring to. So, I don't know. Do you know what the deadline is to get this to the GA?
They usually finish by November.
Okay.
So they have all their bills in.
Okay. So. Okay. All right. But that's all I have on that for now.
Vice Mayor, did you have something on Quantico Creek?
No.
Okay. All right. So I guess we need to figure out, I don't know if staff has enough on the Quantico Creek, but we want to encourage to give us dedicated funding to Dumfries through this SLAP fund and other resource for our environmental project. All right. Next policy position is funding to bury the power lines along Route 1. and Main Street as we begin to get into deeper phases of Route One being widening. I think it's not an either or type of project, but it's a both and type of project. So not either or, but both and. And so we need to advocate. Dominion has money and it's called the Dominion Energy Strategic Underground Program. So there's money in Dominion Energy's underground to bury power lines and to enhance our infrastructure aesthetics. Now, Dominion Strategic Underground Program has been actively burying power lines all across Virginia currently right now to improve their grid reliability and to reduce storm-related outages since 2014. Now, the Dominion generally likes to do it, but they also tack it on to the ratepayers, right? And so we got to look at how we can, one, figure out if the state helps or how we can get funding for this. And then their program focused primarily on a lot of suburban and rural taps lines, which are most vulnerable. But I think that we can talk about the vulnerability of our flooding and how we can tag in whatever language necessary to show how Main Street and the main lines along Route 1 and our corridor are critical to our infrastructure and the economic activity and impact. So justification we can look at in this policy is some infrastructure resilience, some economic and the environmental benefits, and the state and utility partnerships. All right, Council, any questions, comments, additions to funding to bury these power lines? Chair Pro Tem.
So just or so that we can also look at things, I think moving forward, maybe in a future meeting, we need to also look at a federal legislative agenda, because a lot of this stuff to me, I think deals with like environmental issues, things that are dealing with safety. And we need to find out a timeline for when we could, apply for some, funding through some of these federal agencies. I know that Abigail Spanberger held a roundtable last year and she talked about different opportunities. So we need to get with her office while she's still with us and maybe make sure we know what that timeline is, so that we need to be petitioning not only at the state level, but the federal level. But when I think about power lines, that really kind of sticks out as it might get done faster that way.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Oh, y'all rocking and rolling. All right. This is the big one, tax code reform for Rosie's gaming revenue and the Rose Gaming Reservoir. I think we want to stand in strong support, especially with the chairman of appropriations, who has drawn a line in the sand for this, to increase our share of the gaming revenue that the locality is getting and the operations of this resort. For those who don't know, here's the current revenue structure. Now we're going to educate the public on this revenue. Localities hosting a Rosie's gaming resort and the venues currently receive a set percentage of the gaming revenue. However, the distribution, to the town, so we keep a cut, and the host locality that has the racetrack takes the exact same amount. And so as a result, the economic impact for us right now is we're going to generate 40 million. The town of Dumfries only get 10 million out of 40 million in revenue that we create. Another 10 million will go out, and then the 20 million gets spread about through the Grayson Commission. Right now, we've created 500 local jobs, and this is a huge deal. And we want to make sure that we can support the growth and the infrastructure around what's happening in this project. So this is justification for us asking for a change in split. We're looking for local investment in the jobs that were created with, I said 500 million there, it should be 40 million. With 40 million invested, 500 million development, that is right. Creation of 500 jobs. We position ourselves as a key player in Virginia's gaming industry. We're also gonna have the largest historical horse racing machines in the world at 1,800 machines. There's no other historical horse racing gaming facility as large as that. The next largest one is in Kentucky. It's like 1,000 machines. We're looking for fair distribution of revenue. The current tax code doesn't reflect the operation and maintenance costs that we have to bear. Our staff, our police department have to bear. A higher percentage of the gaming revenue would ensure that we have resources to address increased demands on our traffic, our services, and investments in future growth in our community and other resources that our residents want, right? In alignment with local economic growth. So revising the revenue sharing model would align state tax policy with the town's economic development goals and our capital improvement plan, which we got to do pay-go next year. You heard our guy stand up here and say, we got to pay as we go. So this will help us pay for those capital improvement projects that we need. And so it's going to benefit us here. So our call to action here is the request for the Virginia General Assembly to amend the tax code and decrease. And I'm actually seeking the council endorsement. Yes, ma'am.
So in August of 2023, when we had our council retreat, didn't we work together as a council to come up with a legislative agenda with, was it Jane Dittmar?
We did a strategic plan.
We did a strategic plan, but there was Lisa, she showed up. And we talked about some priorities that we wanted that was supposed to be a part of a legislative agenda. And then Lisa, we contracted her to work on some legislative items, and we came up with items that we wanted that were supposed to be prioritized for our legislative priorities. Didn't we do that as a council?
No, we never crafted a legislative. We actually.
Well, we talked about,
We canceled the contract.
I know we canceled the contract because we didn't go through with everything, but as a council, I thought because these things on here, other than the Rosies, we talked about the burying the power lines, and we talked about the Quantico Creek. We talked about those things because we identified what we wanted to be our legislative priorities. We talked about those things as a council.
Yeah,
Right, that's a question. Does anyone else remember that?
So we have a strategic plan. Most of this stuff is in our strategic plan.
I know that they are.
Okay.
So what I'm asking is, does anyone else remember that we identified things for our legislative priorities? And that's when we brought Lisa in, because there was a session with her and we talked about what we were identifying as our legislative priorities. I'm asking, does anyone else remember that?
So I know, if I may, so I know we definitely talked about things that were our priorities. I do think, basically, a lot of so far are things that we talked about at the resort, but I do, want to acknowledge, like, we should submit one every year. I know we have not done it, so since that was from the last, session, it's just, I think we need to keep what we have had and establish, but then also maybe build upon it and actually flesh it out so that it's a more substantial, so that the document contains more substance. So, yeah, I know, but you're right. We did talk about the things that we wanted to prioritize, and largely they haven't changed tremendously because Quantico Creek is always important.
Right.
I think transportation might have even been one of the legislation, but I think this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because Mr. Mayor, you're presenting, but I would think we're keeping what we had and just making it a better document. Is that
right? And so the reason that I asked that question is because I remember that as a council, we talked about what we wanted to see prioritized. And this, what I'm noticing, the only difference that I'm really noticing from what I remember us talking about then, even though we didn't do anything with it, we didn't push forward with it because we didn't have representation to push forward for us because we did cancel the contract. But what I'm noticing that's different this time versus what we did that time is that time we all talked about it together. This time, what we have here is what you're bringing to us and saying, hey, this is what I have. What do you guys think about it? And I'm noticing that what's different from then to now is really just the roles and the support of the gaming tax and how that's done. So I wanted to know then because I can't remember exactly what else was on there, but I feel like there's something different too, like what's not on here that was on there before. And before we push forward with this, I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about what else was on there that's not on here now? Because if there's something on here that wasn't on here before, I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about what could that have been and should that be added back on here to say maybe we add one more on here because it's not here before. That's all I'm doing. I just want everybody to think about that. And I want a minute to think about what's not here now that was there before because we never moved forward with what we had last year. And it could still be a priority. If so, does that mean we need to go back through our emails and find out what it was, what's not here this time? Because we never pushed forward last year. And that doesn't mean it may not be a priority anymore, but I don't want us to overlook it because we all didn't have buy-in on putting this together this year. Thank you for putting it together and doing the work for us, but I don't want to just eat this without thinking about it.
No, that's why I didn't want to vote on it tonight.
Mhm.
And it gives us 2 weeks, 3 weeks to be able to think. Most of these are taken from the council retreat and the strategic plan
Mhm.
outside of the last one, point number 5, which we're talking about. All of this is ain't nothing new from what we did. The difference between the strategic plan and the legislative beginning, strategic plan is our 5-year out.
I know what the difference
Okay.
is. Thank you.
Yeah, so, but we haven't sat down in several years before with a legislative package to send down to the General Assembly. We've always voted and said, we're just gonna say whatever policy positions that VML had. So when you look at the last couple of votes on the legislative agenda, it's just been whatever VML policy positions was. We have not done personally a legislative agenda. I've been asking us to, but we haven't done.
I know. So that's why I'm saying, so what I'm saying to the council is let's go back and look at what we talked about because we tried to get to this point last time and then we ended up canceling the contract.
So this isn't now about a contract. It's just only thing I'm looking for from buy-in from council is do we want these to be policy? And at the end, is there any other thing? That's the only question I'm asking here.
Well, I need time to go back and see what we talked about before to see what else was there from last time. So we can just look at it and compare it. So do you have a deadline for when you would like for us to get this back to you?
The next council meeting.
The next council meeting? All right, so I really would hope that everybody would do their due diligence and take the time to read it. For the council members who are not here, I hope that they'll go back and see the meeting and do their diligence and put the work in. That's my request to everybody. Do the work.
So, yeah, and I'm in agreement with the vice mayor. I do want to say, like, we need to know exactly what is the deadline to get this to the General Assembly because we might need to have a work session somewhere in the middle here and then approve it at the next meeting or something like that, because if we come back to the next meeting and we're adding stuff at that point, then staff is not going to have enough time to incorporate it into a document that is legible for the GA. So we need to can we take a break and find out when that deadline is so we can figure out how we're going to proceed? Because I don't know. I think it's normally in like November, like.
Madam Attorney, do you know the dates?
It's the Monday before Thanksgiving.
The Monday before Thanksgiving. Okay. You know it was in November, but I didn't know the dates.
Okay, so does that mean then that we want to come back by the next council meeting with input? Because what we don't want is to end up like we did with the charter on the day that we are ready to vote on it, public hearing and whatnot, and now we're wanting to add things and change things at the last minute.
I'd like to ask a question. So my question is really sort of pointed to the charter. We have voted to approve the amendments that were drafted, and it's on its schedule on its own right now. So the question becomes, do we hold up sending that as it was planned, which is we would get it to our legislators well before the end of this month, or alternatively, would council add the charter to this legislative priorities list?
So I think you've already, that's two different, the charter is already gone.
I understand that, but it
Yeah.
hasn't been completely, the process hasn't been completed.
So we don't want to touch it. and
Okay.
add that as-
I just wanted to make sure that
As a
it
legislative
wasn't going to
priority.
get
Yeah.
combined with this. Thank you.
These, I just put together the hottest topics that was kind of like in the news down there now, that was jumping to take a position. So somebody else had their thing up. All right. I'm gonna read a position I have on the horse race, and I'm asking the council if they would support a resolution for Delegate Torian's efforts to revise the revenue sharing formula that the historical horse racing machines. There is currently an appropriations committee that's been meeting since, I guess, the beginning of August, talking about the historical horse racing. New Kent is very vocal about their position, and they have a lobbyist on it. So I wanted to see if the council's position was to support what the delegate is doing. Here's what I wrote here. The Town Council of Dumfries is committed to fostering economic growth and improving the quality of life for our residents through strategic investments. Whereas the Rosie's Gaming Emporium and the forthcoming Rose Resort are significant contributors to the town's revenue, supporting essential services, community development, and helping to maintain low real estate taxes for our residents. Whereas the current revenue sharing agreement between satellite gaming facilities and New Kent County is based on an outdated model that does not reflect the current gaming landscaping, where historical horse racing machines generate the majority of revenue. Whereas the existing formula allocates half of the local tax revenue generated from the machines in Dumfries to New Kent, even though the revenue is primarily generated within Dumfries, limiting the town's ability to invest in infrastructure projects, public safety, and other vital services. Whereas House Appropriations Chairman Delegate Torian has recognized the need to reevaluate the revenue sharing agreement to ensure a fair distribution that allows localities hosting these facilities to retain more of the revenue they generate, directly supporting the local needs and reducing the tax burden on revenues. Whereas maintaining a fair revenue allocation will allow Dumfries to build our infrastructure, expand our public service, and to keep our property tax rates low, ensure the benefits of local economic activity are felt directly by our residents. Asking that the Town Council of Dumfries express our support to Delegate Torian's efforts to provide the revenue sharing formula for historical horse racing facilities and to advocate for a fair distribution that reflects where the revenue is actually being generated. So that is a proposed revenue that I'm asking. Councilmember.
So I have, well, one question, maybe two.
Yes, sir.
So in supporting this effort down in Richmond, how does it, is there any risk involved in the town supporting this?
What do you mean when you say risk? We can ask that town attorney. I don't
Well,
know.
no, I'm saying we're gonna support what he's doing down there. And is there any risk to our revenue being that that we have right now being reduced?
No. No. We can go reduce.
So
What do you mean reduce?
what I'm saying, if they reevaluate this whole system and they determine, okay, well, we didn't have to give you that.
No.
No, I'm just asking the question.
No, there's no risk.
Okay.
Yeah, this was initiated by the chairman and the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus.
So there's no disadvantage or no risk involved. So why wouldn't we support this?
But I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm just.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Vice Mayor.
So is this right here is in reference to the fact that the way the revenue split is currently working is that originally it was written so that when the split happens, the original location is splitting what we would get. Instead of us getting our complete share, the original location is getting a percentage of every location after them. And so this is meant to rectify that, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Or create a fair, so we don't know what that percentage would be.
Right.
We want more lion's share.
What we want our lion's share is what this is.
Okay, I'm sorry. And so you're asking for, you're making a motion for us to approve to support, okay?
Yeah, so I just want us to show that we're unified in what he's doing, so they know that whatever he's doing, Dumfries is standing in a agreement. Yeah. You good?
Can we motion, can we make a motion?
No. Oh, I motion, I gotta read this. I motion to support Delegate Luke Torian's efforts to revise the revenue sharing formula for historical racing facilities.
Second. Okay,
Second.
all right. So it's been motion to second. Any other discussion or questions on that? Yes,
So are we approving that actual resolution?
just the resolution.
So I need her to add that to her statement, just to
Okay.
state that as well, that you're approving the
approving this
resolution for, in the title.
A motion to
Approve the
I motion to approve the resolution in support of Delegate Luke Torian's efforts to revise revenue sharing formula for historical racing facilities. All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
So motion to second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call for the question.
Councilwoman Peterson? Aye. Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nicholson?
Yes.
Mayor Wood?
Yes.
Motion has passed. Thank you.
The other policy, now I don't know how council feels about this. So this is up for discussion. I just came up with this earlier thinking about it. But, oh wait, did we miss the skill games? Had that out of order. Okay. We'll come back to it. So this is about. So I put this one up there just as a, see how everybody feels about it. There's conversation of a casino being put in Northern Virginia, right? And I think if anybody gets table games first, because it impact us, if we would like for them to become class 3 to include table games in there. So what's everybody's position on supporting policy? Now, there's no legislation, no policies on the table. There's only Tyson's Corner with, they got lobbyists pushing to have a casino in Tyson's. So what is everybody's position on the class 3? Who's Chair Pro Tem?
No, I'm supportive of it. And the reason being is because as things grow, we have to be ready for it. So if there's an opportunity to adapt to that, if that's, has the Rose mentioned whether that's something they be, okay. Well, hopefully they're watching. We want to make sure we are ready for any opportunities we can to increase our economic balance. So I do support it.
Vice Mayor.
I fully support allowing them to have the option to make the decision themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So don't push for a policy in the state.
Don't what?
So don't push for the General Assembly to create a policy, have them just figure out what they want on their own.
Well, so at this point, we know that there are already parts of the state that have this full, because there are already parts of Virginia, the Tidewater area, who have the ability to do this, but we don't have it up here. So if they're going to expand it to this area, then I want Dumfries to be able to have the option. If they want to partake, then it's I want it to be their choice. I don't want the legislators, the General Assembly to tell us, no, we can't do it here, but they can do it there. So if Rosie's decides that they, or Colonial Downs, if they decide that they want to do it, I want it to be their option to do it, because if they can do it down there, why shouldn't we be able to do it up here?
That's a good point. So I forgot to give some background. Our casinos are in Virginia based on referendum. Senator Luis Lucas passed a referendum, and it's only in 5 localities that allow for table games. 5 localities, none of them north of Richmond, right? And so the legislation doesn't come past Virginia. So you got Bristol, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Was it Rono? No, what's the other one? It's one that's open now. But it's 5 localities, none of them north of Richmond. I don't think they approved the 5th one yet.
Yeah, it would
It would be Richmond or Petersburg. Richmond, it would have been Richmond or now. So, but they had to pass referendum in their cities to get casinos. Rose is not governed as a casino. It's governed by the racing commission, and we have historical horse racing machines. So we don't have traditional casino games. We have what's called HHR machines. I know everybody calls it a casino. If you watch it, it's not a casino. It's a historical horse racing gaming resort, and it's based on historical horse racing. And so that's why when this Rose opens, you will not see any table games. All right, so that's a little background on how we got the casinos versus table games, no table games. So there's no legislation, there's no policy right now that allows for any casinos past Richmond. And so I just was thinking, would we support a policy on allowing Class 3 gaming at the Rose, not because casino, because they're historical horse racing. So that was it. Anything? Councilman Peterson, any feedback? Your thoughts on it? Councilman Brown? I couldn't see it.
So, with the actual gaming tables, is the revenue generated taxed the same way as the slot machines? Is that equivalent for us, what we would get paid?
Yeah, it'd be maybe about a 15% increase. Not much. The house loses big on table games because people can bet big. Not like slot machines, which is regulated. Your payout is regulated. Table games, you're sitting there poker and we're betting money to money. So the formula is different. So if a Michael Jordan come here, he can bankrupt the whole thing because he can win big. So, the house doesn't win big when you got big, what do you call the people? The high rollers, the high limit.
And next question, and so the Colonial Downs haven't approached the town to,
No.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think we could probably modify it a bit, and even if and not necessarily make the Rose the thing, but to support expansion of casinos throughout the Commonwealth, Vice, saying Rosie's here, y'all do this. If there's because right now they're blocked.
Okay.
So that might, it's not saying, hey, Rosie's, y'all do this, that. It gives the option. Well, we gotta come back to this. We gotta come back to this.
So we'll just table it for discussion when we come back on the other part. All right. Last thing that I put together was on skills games and games of chance. From my viewpoint, these skill games, which you'll hear in the newspapers and on the news called the great games, they show up in the gas stations, the bowling alleys, the 7-Elevens, the laundromats, the check cashing places, and they are all over, and they're kind of like there's no regulatory on them. We currently collect zero revenue on any that's out there, so there's no revenue coming in. Also, my young kids in the community can go in there and just play it because it's sitting there like a little Pac-Man machine we had back in the days. So they can go in and they can play it. When you go into like the Rose in the casino, you got to show your driver's license and they got to see who's coming in to play it. So there's no oversight. The governor and the General Assembly has put a ban on these machines. Some of these gas stations and stuff now have found, I guess you call loopholes and what they say opinions on why they can have them again, which the AG has came down and said, no, you can't, but they still have them. And so I know they're fighting for legislation. They fought last year. I've been approached by some of these skill game people asking me to support them. I'm kind of opposed to it because I think Rosie's has been a good partner to the town of Dumfries. When they went away, I think we immediately saw, what was it, a 15% or 20% increase in the revenue when they disappear from the machines. I saw the numbers kind of jump from when those games went up. And so the impact that these gray area machines have on the revenue that we collect is pretty significant. And so my position, and I get your opinion, is that we oppose any legislation supporting these gray machines. So thoughts on the gray machines, the video games, the games of skill? Chair Pro Tem.
I mean, I guess if not, and like we're going to flesh this out because I know we're going to talk about this again and before we ultimately adopt it. But I would say if not that, at least tax them equally. Yeah.
I was going to say the issue with the skill games is that it is so difficult to tax them. Because what happens is when you have these games in, say, a gas station, for instance, there's no way for us to track the income in these machines. And as a store owner, if I were a store owner and I have this machine in my store, there is no mechanism for a locality to track the income of this machine. Because for all the other sales, there are receipts and there are ways to track that income. There's no income tracking mechanism for that. So we can't tax it. We can't track it. That's just money that can go unreported. So we have no way of keeping track of that. We have no way of monitoring who's using it, who's gambling, if it's underage children and things like that. And that is predominantly the issue with those machines.
So do they need more? Should we be advocating for oversight then at that point? Because the thing is, eventually these things come up. People are going to, in enough time, somebody's going to find a way around it. It will find its way here. Can we be proactive and say there needs to be some kind of regulation for a business owner that has it in there, even if it's not about the money, like you said, small children coming in? If you're going to have these machines, and let's incentivize these businesses from having the skill machines.
So Town
Well, if
Attorney,
you, I'm sorry,
Town Attorney, is there any way, or to the Chair Pro Tem, for us to set policies in our locality on these machines?
Probably not. Virginia is a Dillon rule state, so you need permission from the state to implement those kinds of policies in particular.
That was my question, because this is going down to the state, correct?
Yeah.
That was, I was saying I meant from the state level. If I did say, yeah.
Okay.
And then what I was going to add to that is, when you look at trying to regulate these things, that's when you go old school and you have, the hole in the ground clubs where you do the special knocks on the doors and you have the, that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. And that's pretty much because you have to hide ways to do those underground things. And that's what a lot of it is related to, because there's no way to really track that. I mean, all you really need is a plug. I mean in the literal sense and the figurative sense. I mean, really,
You need plug.
you need the plug and a plug. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been facilities that's had 20 and 25 of those machines that's popping
back
back up in Manassas, yeah, and things like that. So, feedback, Brown, Peterson.
So on the higher legislation agenda here, I think one of the things that I'm concerned with is having time to actually write this stuff up. And I know we're saying come back next week after we review the old things that we have already talked about, but we still need to kind of press forward on some of the things that we know we want to, so the town will have time to work on this and it can be written properly before we submit it. So I would suggest or recommend that what we see here, if we don't have a problem with these things, to give the town time to start working this. I don't know if we can send the email in to say these are the things that we want, so they can start working. Any additional things, we can come back in 2 weeks and add. That's okay. Just put some time, put 2 weeks on it.
That's what I said, bring it back in 2 weeks. I just said next week. So the last things, I know the biggest one we wanted to talk about was public safety and ways to I'll skip over to the public safety, looking at some federal grants programs, bipartisan infrastructure law to improve our emergency service, police training, and I think to attract and to retain. And I know you had some thoughts or some ideas on.
Yeah, I did. I would like to petition the state and see if there's anything that they can do for localities to incentivize people going into the police field, whether that be tuition reimbursement, loan forgiveness, small, bonus pays, things like that. Because right now, like throughout the country, not just in the Commonwealth, we're seeing a shortage in police and people not entering the field. We need to do something to incentivize, and it ain't gonna come from us because we just ain't got the money. So we're gonna need help with retention in terms of, making sure we keep our community safe. I would like to support legislation that brings more police officers into the localities and not only brings them in, but incentivizes them to stay.
Okay. Anybody had anything else they want staff to look at? Any other ideas of policy? Or you guys can email. All right. Town manager, do you need any other direction from us on drafting a legislative agenda, or you look for more emails?
Go ahead and vote and tell me.
Okay, there you go. Conclusion and next steps. I did right there.
So if I understand correctly, Vice Mayor wants to wait to approve moving forward what we have here. Is that correct? We want to go back and look at because I think town manager is asking, does he stop working on this right now? So what is it that we are asking the town manager to do? Hold off until we come back and review everything, or move forward on this right here?
So I'm asking this, begin the draft legislative and present it to us to review and discuss. Figure out we want to approve. I guess we have 3 weeks until the 25th of November come up, or 3, yeah.
The question I would have is, when do y'all want this draft presented to y'all? Because, so I can build it in my timeline.
Do y'all want it next week, or can y'all wait till the next council meeting?
Well, we have, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you're saying send emails with different things that we want to add. Like right now, we're not ready to move forward and start drafting this because it's incomplete. So when I guess we need to see, like, when are we going to have these emails to the town manager? And then they can begin drafting the document, because I don't think we're ready. I'm not comfortable saying start drafting this now because we don't have input for everybody yet. So if we're saying, okay, so we just,
Start on the timeline.
huh?
You don't want to push start on the timeline.
No, unless I'm hearing things, did Councilman Brown say, let's go ahead and get started on what we have
No,
and then
we're
add
just
to
having a
it?
discussion.
Because
Yeah, I
that's
think,
exactly what
I think we start what we have, and then if you all have stuff, because if we delay push start, we get into just being kind of like where we're at the last couple of years. I say, let's put a legislative agenda together. I know it's late in the process, but I looked at the timeline when that article came out last week. I was like, okay, we got to do a legislative agenda, and that's why I kind of pushed start on this thing, because I didn't want to delay anymore with us not presenting what's important to us and what our priorities are going into the 2025 Virginia legislative session.
No, I mean, I hear that. I'm in agreement with that. I just, I guess my concern is that largely, and I don't even disagree with the agenda per se, but largely it doesn't include input from everybody. So if you're saying let's draft it based off on this, what's the plan there? Once this drafted, we come back and then we present to the town attorney and the town manager our ideas, and then they redraft the document? Like, how do we,
No,
what's our path moving forward?
I'm saying we have a working document. We get started what we have.
Okay.
If council has any other ideas, they submit it to the town manager and the council, and she can add it as she's drafting the document. But they have to figure out what language, what policies align with what we want, and to be able to start drafting it.
Okay,
So-
but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But was the request to approve this movement to get started on it, what's the motion basically? Like, what motion are you?
To begin drafting and to get other input from council as needed. and bring it back for us to discuss at the next council meeting. And if people got stuff to bring at the next council meeting, it's not a fluid document. We got to the 25th of November to get this in, right? So we want to stretch it out to both meetings in November, then we stretch it out to both meetings in November.
Right, I just want to make sure everybody has enough time to have their positions represented in the document.
Councilman Brown?
I don't have an objection to any of this that's written here. I do need to go back and look at what was talked about back in, I think it was June. But it would be addition to this, because I think this is important. So again, I'm going back to trying to understand what you're trying to do, Mayor, so that the town manager can start work. If we're not having any objection to what's here, this is gonna be in the document regardless. They'll go start that process. Meanwhile, if we look at the document in June, we see something that we want to add, she can always amend that and push that out. But I think we need to get started on the draft.
What he said. Okay, so make that in a form of motion, whatever you just said.
So I would like to make a motion to start a draft legislative agenda document based upon what is presented here in this document. I don't know what this document is called.
Legislative priority.
That's what the document is called?
Yeah, priorities. Yeah.
Based upon the
Presented legislative priorities.
presented legislative priorities. That makes sense to you, Town Clerk?
Or what were you gonna suggest, Town Clerk, Madam Clerk? I saw you.
So I did have one question prior to him making his motion because there was the conversation of getting the additional items. A date wasn't given on you guys compiling all the
Oh, you
information.
said we
So
want a
did
date.
you want to add in there to have you guys to submit those additional items by the 23rd, which
Let's
is
look at the
a
calendar.
week from today? So that would help to compile this entire document together.
You wanna add that to a motion? Town
Okay,
Clerk?
can I read? Well, no one seconded my motion, so I can
Okay.
just remake the
Yeah.
motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I would like a motion to start the draft on the legislation agenda for fiscal year 25, based upon this discussion, and also have the council submit any additional proposals to town manager by
October 23rd.
October 23rd.
It's a week from today. Would that suffice?
And then our next council meeting is the day after the election.
It's November 6th.
And have a presentation for the council on
November 6th.
November 26th.
No, November
I'm
6th.
sorry, November 6th.
November 6th.
November 6th. That was a lot in that motion.
I'll second it.
We good, Town Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
Vice discussion. Vice Mayor.
So with that said, thank you for getting that all out, Councilman Brown. So a couple things in that. Madam Clerk, please put on your calendar or put on our calendar when this is due. Send it to everybody. Could you please include in that calendar invite what the homework is?
Yes.
Because there are council members who are not here. If you would please do a little bit of research and find the information from that strategic plan where this information was discussed, because I do not want anyone to have to use the excuse of not finding the reference material as a reason why they don't put the work in. And if at that point it doesn't get done, then whoever does the work, does the work.
Yes, ma'am.
And so then if it's put on the calendars, but when it's due with the reminder,
I'll send reminders, I'll send an email, and I'll send text messages as well.
I mean, I don't think you have to do all of that, but if you put it on the calendar with a due date, When you do the invite, you can say reminder 2 days in advance or something like that, so folks know. And it's on their calendar, they have the advance notice and the reference materials there for the work. And then if you don't have it by the end of the day when it's due, push forward.
So,
And that's it. And that, once the door closes, keep it moving.
okay, I wanted to have a question in regards to the reference material that you're asking her to look for. Is that the documentation that was discussed with Ms. Fella at the?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
so I checked my email. There was no formal documentation drafted. It will only be in the notes that we took at the meeting. So we don't
Okay.
have anything for the clerk to search for.
So then what could be used then would be from our strategic plan then.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call for the question.
Councilmember Peterson? Aye. Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Miles?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson?
Yes.
Mayor Wood?
Yes.
Motion's passed. Thank you.
All right, at this time, that concludes our agenda for the night. Our meeting is adjourned.